Hello, all. Nancy Estepa here, founder of Someone Cares. I'm also an experienced public school educator and math specialist, and I created this company to help schools and students succeed. Right now, despite our best efforts, school isn't working for everyone. Schools need help. That's why I founded Someone Cares. Someone Cares is an academic tutoring and consulting company that partners directly with schools to provide much needed supports to students. At Someone Cares, we help schools and students succeed by developing and implementing customized tutoring and professional development programs for schools. And today we're going to let you in on the 4 shifts that schools must make to close the math achievement gaps. Everything we do and believe at Someone Cares centers around our core values that you see here. If you're in education, chances are we have similar values. Someone Cares is all about community, access, relationships, equity, and service. We are based in Hampton Roads, Virginia, where our schools are so dedicated, but we still have about 20% of our students failing or not meeting benchmarks in mathematics. That means out of a community of 100 kids, we can estimate that about 20 kids are not able to access an equitable education, a service which we believe should be afforded to each student, regardless of their zip code. So with our core values in mind, let's talk about these 4 shifts that schools must make in order to close math achievement gaps. Okay, I know this is going to be uncomfortable because we always talk about putting students first, but let's be real here. That is not working for all of our students. The first shift we need to make is shifting who we make our top priority. If we're here to serve students, we must put teachers first. Cared for teachers care for students, and students need someone who cares. So what do I mean by put teachers first? Okay, so you know that slide that you have in your PD at the beginning of the year? The one about self-care that shows a girl doing yoga or somebody in a bath with cucumbers over their eyes. Yeah, that's not working. We need to actually value self-care. Self-care and education has nothing to do with yoga or cucumbers. And my friends, Jean's days are amazing, but they're just not cutting it. If we truly value our educators and we truly want them to practice self-care, then we must honor their time. Don't expect them to give up their entire lives for this work. Listen to them when they say they are stressed and overwhelmed, and work alongside them to try to help make the work more manageable. Even though our work as educators has never been easy, we must remember that educators are humans, and humans can't pour from an empty cup. We have got to think hard about how planning and professional development time is being used. We need to consider all we are asking teachers to complete and how long this is going to take them. If we don't set the tone that we expect our teachers to care for themselves, they won't. Then they will burn out, and burned out teachers leave teaching. Next up, under putting teachers first, culture counts. Any school leader knows this. The scary part is we can influence culture, but we alone cannot control the culture of our buildings. In order to have positive culture in our school, we have to work with people who understand and value equity, diversity, and inclusion. This means that we need educators who are trained in culturally responsive teaching practices, and we need to set an expectation that we are all learners and that we truly value differences. Our teachers need to know that the ideas of others matter, and we must respect the opinions of people who disagree with us as much as the opinions of the people who agree with us. To work together effectively, people need to feel seen, heard, and valued. That goes for teachers and students. If you don't want your students to check out, invest the time and training helping your staff check in with each of their students. We is better than me every day of the week. Last thing to remember under putting teachers first, we've got to invest in people over programs. When teachers are not meeting the mark for all students, it doesn't mean they are a horrible teacher or that they don't care. It often just means they need us to invest in them the way we expect them to invest in their students. Investing in people means building teachers' content knowledge so that they have a good foundation to start teaching children. Investing in people means letting teachers work vertically with other grade levels so that they can understand where kids are coming from and where they need to go. This work will enable teachers to quickly address gaps in learning and effectively prepare students for the future. Investing in people means we need to allow teachers a seat at the table when making school-wide decisions. Educators don't need more things to do. They need more people invested in supporting them and their students' success. When we invest in teachers, we empower them to be reflective, to value growth and development, and to collaborate rather than compete. All right, y'all, time for the second shift. We have got to believe in all students. Yes, all of them. Sometimes I think we've seen some students fail for so long that we just think that's the way it's always going to be. We think some students just can't learn. And guess who else thinks like this? Those students. Although there are unique challenges in educating each student, we must honestly believe that every single child can learn. Then we need to work to get those students to believe that they can too. So what does believing in all students look like? Well, to start, we need to let them do the math and not us. Hear me out. Many adults do not understand what math actually is. Many of us, including myself, grew up watching our teachers model steps and copying the teacher's steps over and over until we committed the steps to memory, having no idea how to apply the concept. If this is how we were taught, we may truly think that this is what math is. But that's not math, that's fake math. Mathematicians don't watch and copy. They're not parrots. They question, model, reason, connect, persevere, discuss, and defend their ideas. They make sure it makes sense. Real math is about understanding, and it's supposed to make sense. If kids don't understand why they are doing what they are doing in math class, chances are they're probably not doing real math. This means we need to stop asking kids to copy us and start asking kids to think for themselves. With the amount of data analysis teachers are doing on a daily basis, it is very easy to focus on what our students can't do yet. Although mastering new content is important, we first need to understand what our students can do. Oftentimes, when we're trying to teach a child and they just do not seem to be understanding no matter what we do, it's because we didn't stop to take the time to understand what they can do yet. Math builds on prerequisite skills. If students do not understand prerequisite skills, they will not be able to build on them to learn more. If we start with a good understanding of what students can do, then we can take them from where they are to where they need to be. Next up, we've got to teach kids brain science for real. I can't tell you how many kids think that learning is supposed to be easy. They think that if they don't learn things super quickly or easily, there must be something wrong with them. We see students give up before ever really trying. What causes this? The answer? We do. If we choose not to invest the time to teach our students how the brain works, we are doing them a disservice. We must teach them the power of productive struggle. They need to know that feeling of disequilibrium, the feeling of confusion when you're learning something new, it's normal. And making mistakes when you're learning, that's normal too. Once we teach kids what learning is supposed to feel like, we can teach students to self-monitor their progress and teach them how to articulate their progress toward a learning goal. We teach them to reflect on their own learning, and that's what helps it stick. Time for the third shift. Trust the process. Ernest Hemingway famously said, "It is good to have an end to journey toward, but it is the journey that matters in the end." Along the journey of education, learning happens while we're progressing towards our destination, and what we do on this journey matters. Although we must know where we are going, we must also have a good plan on how to get there. We have got to trust the process. I know as educators, it feels like we're constantly pressed for time. Doesn't it seem like each year kids come to us with larger learning gaps? It's not your imagination. Our obsession with covering standards rather than actually teaching them has caused a lot of the stress we face as educators. But instead of slowing down, we tend to speed up, thinking if we can just go a little faster, we can get it all in. But shortcuts do not equal success, they prevent it. Sometimes we've got to slow down to go fast. We need to let student progress dictate our pacing and let the pacing guide be just that, a guide, a document to help us reflect on our teaching practices. We must also understand that not all standards are created equal. We must understand the difference between the power standards and the supporting standards and plan accordingly. Finally, we need to focus way more on student thinking and sense making. Getting an answer is simply not enough. Until we make sense making a priority in our classrooms, our students will continue to think that answers are more important than their thinking. Each year, we reflect on what we did the year before. We decide that since it wasn't good enough to reach all of our kids, we must now completely come up with a new plan. We switch plans before we even had a chance to implement the previous one with fidelity. Then there's the whole new math concept. Math is math. It's always been math. We just know how to teach it now. When students are consistently given opportunities to work through the CRA process, participate in regular numeracy routines, collaborate on rich problem-solving tasks and games, develop procedural fluency through meaningful practice, and when smart differentiation means they get information right at their level, they all grow. When kids are able to make connections, use mathematical relationships, and communicate about their thinking every day, all students can be successful. Remember earlier, we talked about how people, not products, change people? Well, this is only true if those people are on the same page. School leadership and educators must both understand and commit to working together toward common goals. And families should be given the opportunity to learn how to best support their children. When you invest in grown-ups are happy. And when grown-ups are happy, they help kids grow. We've made it to the final shift, shift 4, time to learn about using smart systems. Educators' plates today are so full. I mean, let's stop kidding ourselves. Who just has a plate these days? We each have a whole table, all to ourselves. When you're planning to prepare a large meal, you don't just cook everything in the same time in the same pot. That would be a mess. You have a system to cook, right? With educators' plates being more full than ever, we need smarter systems to help us keep on track, like a recipe. These smart systems help us handle the increased load. I'm not talking about more systems or complex systems. I'm talking about all the things that we're trying to do, doing them smarter. I'm talking about smart systems. We need to develop and use systems that are easy and efficient. If they're not easy and efficient, they're not getting used. Educators just don't have the time. There are a ton of assessments already developed to monitor the different components of language arts, but there are not as many for math. Most assessments are quantitative and only consider correct answers as evidence of understanding. And as we have already discussed, answers are not enough to demonstrate true understanding. Since mathematics is a subject that builds on prerequisite skills, we must have systems in place to easily monitor and track student progress. At SUMoneCARES, we use a customized anecdotal note system that can be modified to meet the organizational needs of each educator. Each anecdotal notes page is organized by skill so that at any time, a teacher can tell you exactly what components of an objective each child in their class has mastered and what specific components they are still working on, as well as the misconceptions they still have. Our anecdotal note system makes daily formative assessment a breeze, and this system allows teachers to keep all the information they gain from working with students throughout the day in one place. Teachers feel empowered when they can tell where each student is at all times once they have a smart system for monitoring student progress. The anecdotal note system we use at SUMoneCARES allows teachers to design very targeted, flexible small groups to give students exactly what they need, increasing student engagement and making the most out of instructional time. Since number and number sense cannot be taught in a single year or in a single unit, growth must be monitored over time. Teachers need easy and effective assessments and rubrics that monitor student reasoning and thinking as they grow throughout the year. If systems are not in place to monitor this, it is often not monitored at all. That's how kids end up in middle school unable to access higher level math. They never truly developed strong number sense. Number sense is a tricky thing to measure, but there are ways to do it easily and effectively. So let's review what we talked about, the 4 shifts that schools must make to close math achievement gaps. Number 1, in order to put students first, we have to put teachers first. Number 2, we need to invest in people over programs because people change people. Number 3, we have got to trust the process. Give kids time to learn and construct their own understanding instead of trying to cover material. They're not going to retain it. Number 4, we need to use smart systems. All of those things that we do every day, but smarter. There's systems for that. So now that you have learned the 4 shifts, if you would like help working on implementing any of these things in your school, give us a shout. We're here to help schools and students succeed through our consulting and tutoring services. Thanks for listening.